Monday morning and we have a Stopwork meeting, all teachers across the state, 8:30 until 10, and we go to specific venues where we have the meetings broadcast in by the union, and we're coming up to an award negotiation. Every award negotiation is obviously has new pay and salary agreements attached to them, but that's just one part of the agreement. From what I've heard, they're outlining a lot of the stuff we're looking at in terms of working conditions and workload, because we seem to be being bombarded with mandatory training that has to be constantly done, and paperwork that needs to be constantly done, and some of it takes you away from not so much the teaching, because that's happening in the classroom, but from your prep time, your preparation, your research, all that sort of thing. A lot of the time it's usually easier to get to try and get your mandatory online training done while you're at work, because there's no issues getting into the system. But that can end up taking up anywhere between 20 minutes and an hour, and there's other stuff you've got to do, like a lot of my other administration for the faculty can't get done. So anyway, there's meeting points all over the state. There is one that's close to work, however I didn't get away from the house as quickly as I could have, and there's another one along the way in Penrith. It says Western Sydney Conference Centre, but I believe it's at Panthers. It's just like the other one that's near work has two names. And I know that our two deputies said that they were heading to the one at Panthers because it's on the way to work. The other one that's closer to work is actually past work. I chucked both into the GPS just to see what it said the time would be today, because I know trying to get to one past work means I'd be on the freeway, and the freeway's traffic in the morning can't always be relied upon. So Panthers at Penrith is just, get off the freeway, Mulgara Road, go up towards Panthers, get in there. It says I'll get there before the start time of 8:30, which is good because it means that I'll be able to park and get in, whereas the other one I'd be late. I'd probably miss the start of the meeting. It's almost the end of October. For a lot of people that means Halloween. For me it means there's another scary deadline, tax time. I was getting it prepared throughout the year this time, and then it completely slipped my mind until during the weekend I went, tax. So I started working on another weekend. It really is something that you've got to try and maintain. Collecting the receipts and everything like that, but keeping all your journals up to date. Obviously journeys for travel, it's just a matter of collating it all and then going through and making sure everything's in there, all your deductions, etc. And don't miss any. I discovered last year I'd been missing $100 in deductions for years because I didn't realise that donation schedule to the Police Boys Club they do a lot of work for the kids in our area, but they do it across the state, probably the country. But I was doing a modest donation to them out of every pay. When they stopped giving us physical pay slips, I stopped remembering that that it was happening. because so much of tax is electronic and the tax office gets your wages and everything directly from the department, yeah, it just skipped my mind. Last year was the first time I realised, but I think I realised after I'd put my tax in. Nearly there. Nearly there. Oi! Stop that! The sounds of the Australian bush can drive you mad. This is crazy. It's around 5 o'clock. And so it's like, can't pass up the sunshine, especially since it rained yesterday after work. So get home and make the best of an opportunity. And yeah, we've come out to our other walking area where we had to drive out to, just because there's some longer flat sections so we can get a bit more of a walk in. I'll see how far it says we've walked when we get back to the car. Just as we were getting up towards where we would turn around, we spotted the one of the broods of ducks, 2 adults and 6 to 8 youngsters that were more than ducklings now. They were closer to adult size, but not quite, and their colouring was a little different. They saw us coming and started scurrying ahead of us, and just when we got to the end where we would turn around, they waddled down into the bush. I know there's a number of water holes and creeks in this area, so they don't really have that far to go to find something to swim in or find food or something like that. No. I wanted to try and get video of them, they were just too far away. Zooming wouldn't have even worked. Right. I have not worn these high top All Stars in I don't know how long, and I used to wear them all the time. One of the closest things I've got to barefoot shoes. Comfy. muggy day, but I had all but one in the class today, and then that creates issues of its own because I've only got one router, one jigsaw, one drop saw. So kids were working away at their jobs. A couple who weren't here before got here and they're starting up. But we got 3 completed. Class is now down to 10 students from, what was it, 23 I think at the start of the year. So now I've got 10, and everyone has started this project, which is much better progress than previous units. So it's kind of feeling good to see them working a little better, and we should be able to sort of move through this. I think I'll try and get onto some of the theory. I wanted to try and keep the momentum rolling with the prac while they're in the mood, and then we'll power, if you can, power through the theory so that we can get onto the next unit, which that'd be good to be able to try and get through the 2 that we're behind on, so that we might be able to make a start on the first HSC unit before the year ends. But I think that's that could be a little bit ambitious, trying to push through too much too quick. So we'll see how we go. Just slightly up our street, and the cicadas aren't nearly quite as bad. My wife texted me while I was driving home, "You need to walk the boys." It's 6:30, so daylight savings definitely has its advantages. It's been a warm day today. My wife said it got up to 82 Fahrenheit. I'll have to convert that. And when she said that, when I was driving, I just checked the outside temperature in the truck, and it was like 27 centigrade or Celsius. A town down, I think. There's a nice enough breeze coming through here at the moment, but it's warmish. The cicadas. Those cicadas this morning, I don't know whether they know it's likely to be a hot day, but some of them had started at 5:30 or before. When I woke up in the morning to feed the dogs, I opened the door to let them out, and you could already hear them, and it was still dark out. So I think it's going to be a bit of a day with the cicadas today up here, and they can be really insanity inducing, I think, with the noise. It really just sounds like a bad tinnitus because it's going in and out, and sometimes it's just constant because there's so many of them. But I digress. I'm heading to one of the other campuses this morning. We have Head Teacher Planning Day organised for the college. We have 2 of them a year, one in first semester, one in the second semester. So this one we're kind of looking forward to next year. What sort of things can we do, etc. as a college. The meeting goes from 9 till 12. After that, the other campus is close enough that I can get back to the school by 12:30 for my year 8 class. I would normally have had year 12 this morning, so no classes being missed, which makes it easy for the admin head because they don't have to do anything in terms of colour. It's also Halloween, 31st of October. I had considered putting some of the red colouring in my beard like I've done in a previous year, but I thought if I'm going to another campus as an official visitor, that may not be the best. Still partially got into the mode, but they're used to that. This is actually the first time this term that it's gone on because I've just gone, I know the struggle that people who wear nail polish a lot have to put up with, because you put it on, then you've got to keep your fingers away from everything to allow it to dry without messing it up. I knocked mine just picking up my coffee cup this morning, and I'm sitting there trying to dry it. It's not the best job, but it was basically just for the spirit of the day. It looks like it's going to be warm, and I'm dressed all in black, which might not be best. I've got Daffy having a scream and sore. That's my tie clip. Trying to get in the mood without being too outlandish, because there was nothing really organised at school this year, such as a dress up for Halloween mufti day or anything like that. Halloween's not as big a thing in Australia as it is in the US, which my wife finds a little disappointing. There's a few people on our street that are getting into the spirit and are decorating their houses and inviting trick-or-treating. They're spaced out quite a bit. Sometimes I think it's an awesome thing. Sometimes it's like, well, let's over-commercialise it. I have been listening to a podcast called the Gen X podcast. What is it? I think it's just called the Gen X podcast. I'll have to double check that. They're currently talking about memories of Halloween, the differences they've had, whether they grew up in suburbia or some of them grew up in more rural areas, and how nowadays it's some suburban areas in the States, communities are designating different days for trick-or-treat because Halloween falls on a weeknight, so they put it on a Saturday night or a Friday night, or some places do, what do they call it, trunk or treat, and they use a shopping centre car park, and everybody just rocks up with their cars with candy in the trunk, and the kids walk around from car to car and trunk or treat. And, you know, I'd hate to be thrown in the trunk if they didn't give you a treat. I remember here doing trick-or-treating as a kid, usually as an organised activity by our scouts, because I did Cub Scouts as a kid, and all of the parents of the kids who were in the Scouts or the Cub Scouts, they all took part, and our scout leaders and various parents would drive us around to the different houses of all the Cub Scouts, because it was a rural area as well, and we were so spread out. And if there was a case of people living close enough, we'd just walk between the houses. But that's how we did it. There's some areas in the mountains that seem to take it a little bit more under their wing. I've seen some houses that are, there was somewhere a couple of years ago, and the lady had really dressed up her yard. She was dressed up as a witch in the driveway, greeting the kids who came around trick-or-treating. But I also did hear on this Gen X podcast, they said that there's some areas now in the States that don't recognise Halloween or trick-or-treating, but they'll have a fall festival or a harvest festival, and they remove all references to witches and goblins and that sort of stuff, but basically sanitizing it because it doesn't gel well with their strong Christian values. Sometimes I honestly think that us Gen Xers did get the best deal. We had enough freedom as kids to go play outside, to have Halloween, to have bike riding before helmets were a thing. Helmets came in when I was a kid. And we also got to experience the growth and the boom of the electronic generation. I mean, Gen X starts mid-60s to early mid-80s, I think. And we also got to grow up when there weren't any cameras around to record evidence of the silly things we did. I think I got my first mobile phone the first year I started teaching, so that I could be contacted by schools for casual work. And it was just an analog little red LED, a single line that showed up the phone number when you were dialing. Basically just a glorified walkie-talkie, chunky like a walkie-talkie too. I'm really going off a tangent. I'm stopping.